Hello YouTube. I want to tell you about some very interesting events that took place in Tajikistan and some of its paranormal phenomenon. I've made other videos about Tajikistan, but I think you'll find this one interesting. For those who need to know, Tajikistan is a landlocked country in Central Asia. It's bordered by Afghanistan to the south, Uzbekistan to the west, Kyrgyzstan to the north, and China to the east. It's separated narrowly from Pakistan by Afghanistan's Wakhan corridor. The traditional homelands of the Tajiks include present-day Tajikistan, as well as parts of Afghanistan and Uzbekistan. I think they are quite prominent in Uzbekistan, but that's another story. The territory that now constitutes Tajikistan was previously home to several ancient cultures, including the city of Sarazm of the Neolithic and the Bronze Age, and was later home to kingdoms ruled by people of different faith and religions and cultures, including the Oxus civilization, Andronova culture, Buddhism, Nestorian Christianity, Hinduism, Zoroastrianism, and Islam. It's a very interesting land, and of course you can imagine the archaeology in that area, and of course it's beautiful. It's just the nature, the mountains, the lakes. Well, I want to speak about events that took place in the Kulob Oblast, which was an administrative subdivision in Tajikistan during the Soviet period. Well, in 1992 it was once again merged with the Kurkon-Tepa Oblast to create the Khatlon region. This is for those who would want to visit this area I'll speak about, although I don't recommend it. But you should, Tajikistan itself, that's no issue. It's a beautiful country, except there are some conflicts in the region, so please check before you decide to go. Now, the city of Kulob, once called Kulyab, was once the capital of that region. And I want to talk about the secret of the Shaitan Gorge today. In fact, the gorge is nameless. The Shaitan Gorge is called by truckers. Shaitan means devil. The place is located in Tajikistan near the Dushanbe-Kulyab highway, about an hour's drive from the regional center. Well, Safar Odinayev, the driver of the Dushanbe motor depot of the Ministry of Internal Affairs in the USSR, told this about this place to a Soviet journalist, Alexander Zubilin, if I remember the name correctly, back in 1973. Now, the driver himself was a native of Kulyab and often traveled along the above-mentioned highway. Here is his story. Everything seems to be normal there. It is no different from other places. The road is like a road. You roll yourself calmly down the road and suddenly it gets creepy, and always in the same place. In others, nothing like this happens. And sometimes you see things in the sky, like spots of fire, dark spheres flying, a pillar of light hovering over. Sometimes strange people appear. But the driver is just saying that people, in fact, they can't even find a name for the people who appear there. That's what he said. Now, Yakub, who was Safar Odinayev's replacement, added this to the Russian journalist. He always noticed that the place is no good. Once or twice a strong fear attacked him there, for no reason at all. Already the hair stood on end and moved. The reason for this he never understood. However, sometimes it's not fear, but on the contrary, some kind of relaxation, like serenity, has descended on him. Because of what some drivers, because some drivers' cars actually flew into a ditch, but the Allah, he said, saved him. Once he almost drove off the road, but at the very last moment, the driver seemed to wake up, turn the steering wheel. There are all sorts of visions there. Once the driver looked, he could see the beauties of Peri gathered in a clearing with green grass, and they would dance and sing. They are dressed unusually for their places, for the area, and the music is not at all similar to the Tajik music, and also not similar to the Russian one, and as if it was out of this world. He has never heard anything like it. On another trip, suddenly something made the driver stop, leave the car, and go to the Shaitan Gorge. Well, he managed to overpower himself. He remembered in time that the guys he knew said, "You cannot slow down here." Yakub jumped into the cab of the car, pushed on the gas pedal and drove away. Then he told his friends in the garage. So the oldest driver praised him. He did the right thing, they say. It could have ended badly. It's better not to go there at all, to that area of the gorge. And the Soviet journalist mentioned another story. He heard an incredible story from a driver named Jafar. It was there at the Shaitan Gorge that the engine of the Jafar's car stalled. So he had been fighting for an hour trying to start it, couldn't do anything, it was getting dark. So Jafar got ready to spend the night there. He got some brushwood together, he lit a fire. As soon as Jafar ate his meal, a girl comes out of the darkness to him. Slender as a poplar tree and light, she wouldn't bend a blade of grass as she moved. Jafar took a closer look and found out Nuri, his bride. Jafar's head was spinning. He lost all reason. They were already caressing each other, hugging, kissing. She began to lay Jafar on the grass, but he managed to stop himself, said that this could not be done before the wedding. It was no good. For a long time she tried to persuade the driver, more and more insistently. Then she got offended and went back into the night. It was as if a veil had fallen and the dope in his head had evaporated. And it dawned on Jafar that it was a Nuri who came, even though she looked incredibly similar. His fiancée died a few months ago. Before that, in the morning, the engine started immediately, as if it had never broken down. All these stories interested the Soviet journalist very much. Later, he looked through a lot of books and articles about the Kulyab region in libraries, but he didn't find anything on the topic that intrigued him. Then, as a journalist, he met with experts. He asked them about the Shaitan Gorge, but they just threw up their hands. No, not everybody believed him. They called the stories mysticism or tales of illiterate drivers. And by the way, this situation is very characteristic. Drivers who often went in those places noticed something unusual, tried to tell their superiors about it, and the people, including their bosses and scientists who had never seen Shaitan's Gorge in their eyes, categorically stated that this could not be because it could never be. And this is, of course, not only limited to the Soviet Union. You can hear this in other countries too, no matter what the political system. Well, this does not fit in their heads. A real scientist should follow the facts, study the phenomenon, and only then draw conclusions. That's what the Soviet journalist said, and I completely agree with him. In short, the journalist had to turn to the drivers again to get backup information, more details, more facts. So some confirmed to him that it was unclean, so to say, in the Shaitan Gorge. According to them, there were several cases when empty vehicles were found there without drivers and without passengers, but untouched cargo was left inside, sometimes very valuable. Where people have gone to is a mystery. However, one person was found. He was in completely deranged state, without a glimmer of reason. He mumbled something, gesticulated, answered questions at random. Was impossible to understand anything. So he was sent to the doctors. Also, unidentified flying objects often appear in that area. You can also see wonderful looking living creatures there. They resemble huge insects or extinct dinosaurs, or sometimes fabulous freaks. On other occasions they resemble human beings, but with a difference in the structure of the body, with unusual skin color. Someone claimed that even he met people with wings there. One day the journalist went on an urgent business trip to Kulyab. The driver, Mirzobek, was a talkative, cheerful person, so they talked all the way. Suddenly the driver became gloomy. The muscles in his face were tense. Noticing the Russian's surprised look, he explained, "We are passing the Shaitan's Gorge. It is not a good place." The journalist started looking around, but didn't notice anything unusual. He told Mirzobek about it. And Mirzobek blurted out, "Allah forbid to see something there." "Have you seen it?" "Sometimes. Last year, Mirzobek got to this place, decided to get past it as soon as possible. Suddenly he saw Bobo, the old man, walking in front, stick in his hand. So he goes without looking to the back. The driver turned up the gas and he didn't turn his head around. He didn't want to see anything like this. And suddenly Mirzobek realized that he cannot catch up with Bobo in any way. He hit the gas pedal again. The engine roared. The speed was incredible. It was huge. And he goes and goes ahead. The distance doesn't shorten. The driver was already shaking, covered with goosebumps, and Bobo is gone. Mirzobek looks back. There is no back, meaning there is no rear. Then he saw that he was still at the gorge, as if he had not passed it. The driver did not want to talk anymore. A bad place. They need to get through it as soon as possible and not remember it, otherwise it won't be good. That's the story. The Soviet journalist really wanted to visit the mysterious gorge, but alas, he didn't have a chance. Only once did he drive by in a car. In addition, during the stagnation period of the Soviet Union, that would be 1970s and early 1980s, he was not particularly allowed to write on such topics. Everything incomprehensible, so to say, was declared superstition and mysticism. And after the well-known events in Tajikistan, meaning turmoil and bloodshed and war, there was no time for the Shaitan Gorge at all. The journalists had to leave the Republic, which became a sovereign country, for Russia. So the mystery is still waiting to be solved, because the gorge has not gone away anywhere. By the way, not far from that place, on the bank of the Vaksh River, there is a mysterious mound about 8 meters high. It is made of rounded stones. Someone doesn't see anything unusual in it. They say the stones were demolished here by local farmers from the fields. Someone is sure that the mound was built by the warriors of the legendary Iskander Zulkarnain, Alexander the Great, who once conquered the local lands and people. But a third account has an indirect relation to the Shaitan Gorge. They say that here you can find the entrance to the underground kingdom of evil spirits. From time to time, people observe strange celestial phenomena over the mound, which the science calls UFOs. Some locals do not care to approach the stone mountain. They explain it like this. They saw some creatures there in the glow of the black light. No matter how the journalists questioned the eyewitnesses, they could not explain it to him more precisely. It is quite difficult to imagine the black light. He was at that mound. He didn't see anything unusual, but he felt the smell. It smelled of sulfur. And sulfur he added, as you know, is an indispensable attribute of hell. I want to talk a little bit about UFOs in Dushanbe. There was a very interesting case, I believe in 2015. I don't know the exact date, but it was an interesting case. And I don't think we know too many details ever, after it took place. So in the courtyard of the Imamov's house, at the height of about 2.5 meters, a red-hot sphere hovered. Maybe not red hot, but some other kind, but that's what it looked like. The conclusion about the high temperature was made because the branches and fruits of the persimmon growing in the yard were burned. After hovering in the air for 40 seconds, the sphere suddenly rushed down, smoothly but rapidly. As soon as it touched the ground, it exploded. Was it a ball lightning? Unlikely. As a souvenir, the celestial alien left Imamov not only burnt persimmon fruits, but also its own fragments. And as far as we know, fireballs have never left anything like this anywhere. The Imamovs handed the fragments to the hands of employees of an enterprise called Tajik Aerokosmo Geodesy. The fragments look like tough. They are burned from the inside and outside, said a researcher at that enterprise, Ocheldiev, and the shape can be unmistakably determined before they were some kind of a round object. It's too early to draw conclusions. That's what the report said at the time. The fragments suddenly behaved somewhat strangely. They began to crumble almost before the scientists' eyes. Fortunately, they did not evaporate, which would allow further research. Analysis of burnt persimmon fruits revealed increased radiation in them. The work continued, and perhaps it will help to establish whether there is a connection between this sphere and those anomalies that were observed by the Dushanbe residents in November of 1989. That was very interesting. It was for the first time that a yellow sphere was noticed on the outskirts of the city, and then 4 times within a month. Already in other areas, incomprehensible stars appeared from which powerful light streams diverged. The rays were red, blue, and green. One of these objects, which appeared on November 8 at about 9 p.m., was hovering low, flying low below the clouds. Observers noticed how the sphere moved away from them and quickly went down. The dispatcher of the traffic service of the Dushanbe airport, who was watching the UFO through binoculars, said that it was about 20 kilometers from the airport, moved in different directions, and then gradually disappeared in southwesterly direction. Whether it has to do with the exploded object or its appearance is accidental was still unclear. There's more interesting phenomena in Tajikistan, and like I said, I have it in my videos, and I'll put a link in the description to this one. But overall, Central Asia is a wonderful place when it comes to study of paranormal phenomena, and you can see it quite a lot. You can see quite a lot of videos in my channel, starting with Uzbekistan's horrible earthquake and the UFOs and more. So please go to my channel, you will see it. I thank you for your attention. If you can support my research, please look at the links in the description to this video. Please subscribe, like, tell others, and I will bring you more stories from such remote areas to most of you, not well known in the West or other places like Japan and so forth, but very, very interesting phenomena. Thank you.